In this English lesson, we'll read a BBC News article together. And as we read the article, you'll learn advanced English vocabulary in context. You'll learn the correct grammar and the correct pronunciation at the same time. This is an advanced article discussing a new study on reducing the risk of Alzheimer's disease. If you can understand this article, your English is excellent. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started.
Our headline, Amazing Reduction in Alzheimer's Risk Verified by Blood Markers, study says. First, let's talk about the pronunciation of this word. Alzheimer's. So notice this beginning is pronounced like the name Al. Now this is pronounced as an S, sigh. And this H is not heard. Alzheimer's. Now it has this apostrophe S. It's showing possession because it's Alzheimer's disease. But often they don't say disease, but you still keep the apostrophe S and it's just implied that it's disease. Now let's look at this structure. Reduction, this is a noun. It's a something. So notice you have reduction in something. Maybe your teacher says to you, I've noticed a reduction. So this is a noun. That's why you need an article here. I've noticed a reduction in your mistakes. Great job. Now let's review this sentence. I've noticed a reduced number of mistakes, and then potentially in your writing, in your speech, in your presentation. And again, great job. So notice here, a number of, that's the noun phrase, and you use of in this case, of mistakes. Reduced functions as an adjective and it tells you more information about the number. I'm sharing this because it's very common to use reduced risk of something. For example, a healthy diet could reduce. So here reduce is a verb. Could is a modal. It means there's a possibility, but it isn't guaranteed. Now for sentence structure, you have modal plus base verb. So that's why we have reduce. A healthy diet could reduce your risk of Alzheimer's. So notice those preposition changes and sentence structure changes. In this case, reduction again is a noun. Amazing reduction in Alzheimer's risk. Now, amazing, this is in quotations because it means someone directly said that. So in this case, this is what the study said. So in the study, they used the word amazing. And of course, amazing is a very positive adjective. Very, very, very good or great. You can say amazing. So hopefully you're thinking learning English with the news is, and here are some alternatives that also mean very, very, very good. Incredible, remarkable, extraordinary, or amazing. So if you agree with that, put amazing in the comments so I know you enjoy this lesson. And don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Let's keep reading. When Penny Ashford's father was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's disease, so here notice they added disease. You could just say early stage Alzheimer's, but you would still keep that apostrophe S to show possession even if you don't have the word disease. And notice you're diagnosed with something, and it's to be diagnosed with something. So her father was diagnosed because it's the simple past, it's a completed past action, was diagnosed with something, with Alzheimer's. And then early stage is an adjective. It tells you the severity of the degree. Severity represents how severe. So we could have on a scale of 0 to 10, and then 0 would be the least severe, and then 10 would be the most severe. And then this scale is severity. How severe is the illness or the disease? As a question, you could ask someone, how severe is the illness? So severe is an adjective. Or you could ask, what's the severity of the illness? And severity is a noun. This is probably the most common in an everyday context. And then this is more of a technical term. Like I said, you might be trying to understand on a scale the severity of it. When Penny Ashford's father, so again, this possessive here, this apostrophe S, is because the father belongs to Penny. Now, Penny, this is a female name, so you would say her father, her father. When her father was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's disease at age 62. So at age and then 62. Notice the sentence structure here. You could also say at 62 or at 62 years old. You could use years old if you did not use the word age. This is a more formal way of using it at age 62. I wrote those two options for you. Now you can also use the more standard term, which is when he was 62. Now you can just use the number. If you want, you can say 62 years old, but you can't just say 62 years. You must use years old. And notice there's an S because it's plural. So when he was 62. At age 62, this sounds the most formal. Let's keep going. She knew the devastating brain disorder might one day steal her memory. Now notice here, this might, one day is a time reference, and the next verb is steal. So might is our modal verb of possibility, and steal is our main verb. It's in the base verb because modal plus base verb. Now, one day is suggesting that it's unknown, and it's unknown if it will happen, or is unknown when it will happen. So it adds more possibility or mystery to it. So here's a medical vocabulary question for you. Her father has the disease. She's worried that she might get the disease. That means the disease is, do you know what the word is? If the disease is passed from father to daughter or mother to son, from parent to child, the disease is called hereditary. Is that what you said? Hereditary. So that means it's genetic. It's in your genes because the child gets the genes of the parent. Hereditary. Let's review this sentence. At age 43. So notice I'm using this at the very beginning as a phrase to introduce it. So you can do that as well. This at age 62 or any of the options I gave you, you can have this at the very beginning as a phrase. At age 43, she was diagnosed. So the verb to be, of course, in the past simple, she was diagnosed with a disease. And then you can use hereditary. Notice that H is pronounced H. Hereditary. This is an adjective with a hereditary disease. So this isn't the name of a disease. It indicates how you get the disease. So it means a disease that you inherited from your parents genetically. This is just an example. It's not related to the story. Let's keep going. In her late 50s, so we're talking about Penny Ashford. Her father was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. She's concerned she might get Alzheimer's because it's hereditary, which is implied by this article. In her late 50s. Notice this. If you did not have this word, in her 50s, it means Penny could be 50 or 59 or any number in between in her 50s. So the decade of 50s, from 50 to 59. But late 50s, to me, sounds like 57, 58, 59. That sounds like late 50s. Now, we have two other names, two other adjectives to describe this category. Do you know what they are? There's early, mid, and late. Early 50s, of course, is 50, 51, 52, 53. Mid 50s, 54, 55, 56. And then late 50s. So this is a way of giving someone an approximation of how old you are without specifically stating the exact age. In her late 50s, her free-floating anxiety turned into outright panic when she began struggling to find words. Let's review these adjectives here. We have free-floating anxiety. So what is free-floating? Well, if you have a speech that you're giving tomorrow and you feel anxious, anxiety, that is not free-floating because you know the cause. You're anxious because you're giving a speech tomorrow. If you don't have a speech tomorrow, you have nothing on the calendar, it's just a regular Sunday day is a regular Sunday, and you have nothing specific to cause you concern, but you still feel anxiety, that's free floating. So it's a general feeling. It's not caused by something specific. So you can't identify why you feel anxious. So her free floating anxiety turned into, this is the phrasal verb form of became outright panic. So outright represents full, complete. So complete panic, full panic. And panic is a very intense feeling, more intense than anxiety. And then this is the cause, when she began struggling to find words.
Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson.
Remember, her anxiety became panic, full, complete panic, outright panic, when she began struggling to find words. I couldn't tell a story. I couldn't get my words out, said Ashford, now 61. So remember, she was in her late 50s, now 61. This is a specific number, obviously. You could also say now in her early 60s. But if you use that, notice the additional preposition, in, and then the decade belongs to the person. So the possessive pronoun. Now, in her early 60s. That's what 61 is, early 60s. Let's keep going. I remember sitting at a dinner party one time and I couldn't finish my thoughts. Notice here we have one time. But where are we on a timeline? Are we past, present, or future? We're in the past. So one time is an unspecific time reference for the past. And previously we learned that one day is an unspecific time reference for the future. You've probably said, I want to speak confidently one day, an unspecific time in the future. Of course, you want that sooner rather than later, which is why I'm here to help. Let's review this again. I remember sitting. Notice here we have the gerund verb. When you're thinking about something in the past, we use remember plus gerund. I remember being a student. I remember talking to my mom about that problem. I remember creating that lesson for my students. But remember plus infinitive, that's for the future. It's giving someone an instruction to do. Remember to like this lesson. Remember to subscribe. So you haven't done it yet, I'm assuming. So that's an instruction for the present, near present, or the future. But for the past, we use the gerund verb. I remember sitting at a dinner party one time and I couldn't finish my thoughts. So couldn't, this is the modal verb can in the past. I can do that. I couldn't do that yesterday. I can do that now. I can do that tomorrow. I couldn't do that yesterday. So can for the present or future, couldn't for the past. I couldn't finish my thoughts at that unspecified time in the past. It was the most unbelievable moment. I came home and sobbed. What does this mean? I came home and sobbed. To sob is to cry uncontrollably, to cry very hard. So to have a lot of tears and for them to come down very quickly. So the verb is to sob. And then, of course, this is in the past simple. I came home and sobbed and told my husband, something is wrong with me. Now, notice here, this is in quotation marks as well. The story is in the past, but when she said this, she was saying it in the moment. So that's why it's in the present simple. Something is wrong with me. I can't talk, she said. I was petrified. I was petrified. So she's thinking about this time at the past when she couldn't finish her thoughts. She was petrified. Do you know what petrified means? It means extremely scared. Let's keep going. Today, after a complete revamp of her lifestyle and overall health, Ashford's struggles with retrieving words have eased. Notice here we have Ashford's struggles. So struggles is a noun and they belong, the struggles, they belong to her. Her last name is Ashford. That's why we have this possessive here. Ashford's struggles, her struggles. Now you can use with and then a gerund verb because with is a preposition. If you write this as a normal clause, subject, verb, object, then you would say Ashford struggles to retrieve words. So struggle is a regular verb. An infinitive follows it. But this is the noun form and you use with and then a gerund. And her struggles have eased. This means the severity. Remember, we talked about the word severity, how severe something is, the severity. The severity has gone down. So have eased. To ease, it's gone down or it's lessened. It's become less bad. Have eased. Now let's go back because you might be wondering about this word. After a complete revamp of her lifestyle and overall health. So she revamped this area, her lifestyle, and this area as well, her overall health. It means that she completely changed them with the goal of improving them. This word is commonly used in a variety of contexts. So the verb is revamp. You might say, I need to revamp my website. So you completely change the layout, the design, the colors, the photos. And of course, your goal is improving the website by doing that. I need to revamp my website. Maybe it's your schedule when you do things because you have no time to study English. So you need to revamp your schedule. Or your wardrobe. Your wardrobe represents all the clothes available to you. So everything in your closet or drawers, that's your wardrobe. So you throw out all your clothes, you donate them, and then you get new clothes, you revamp your wardrobe. So let's read this again. Today, after a complete revamp of her lifestyle and overall health, Ashford's struggles with retrieving words have eased, while measures of amyloid and tau proteins, I don't know what these are, to be honest with you, they're proteins. They're the name of specific proteins, but the average native speaker would not know what these are. A medical professional would know what they are. So there's no need for you to know what these are unless you are studying to become a medical professional. But protein, that's an important word that the general public would know. While measures of amyloid and tau proteins and neuroinflammation, I only have a general idea of what this is as a person with a non-medical background. Inflammation. And then, well, what type of inflammation? Neuro. So neuro represents having to do with your brain, your neurology. So neuroinflammation. So inflammation represents swelling and areas that are affected. And neuroinflammation, all hallmark signs of Alzheimer's. So they're telling us why they identified these specific proteins and this word, neuroinflammation, because they're hallmark signs of Alzheimer's. So here the word hallmark would represent the defining signs, the most important signs. So if you have these proteins in your body, then you probably have a higher risk of Alzheimer's because they're hallmark signs. So defining or determining signs. And in her case, they have fallen. So of course, there's a reduction. Ashford knows about these improvements because she's part of a unique study tracking her progress via key blood biomarkers now being used to help diagnose early dementia. So notice here we have unique, and then we have this article. Now you've learned that you change your article or an depending on the beginning of the next word. And what's the rule? It's a vowel, right? But it's a vowel sound. So it's not in spelling, it's in pronunciation. Most of the time, the vowel spelling does match the article, but this is pronounced as you. So it's actually a consonant sound, and that's why we have unique. And it's easier to say unique than an unique. Your mouth has more difficulty with an unique. And that's the only reason why we change it between and an is to make pronunciation easier. And it's easier to say unique. Notice you use a little bit of a y glide. A unique study. And also notice here, we have the word diagnose, but it's being used as the active verb form. So to be diagnosed with, you're receiving the diagnosis. Diagnosis is the noun form. To be diagnosed with, you're receiving it. Your main verb in that case is the verb to be. Diagnosed is always in the third form. But this is the active form of the verb, to diagnose, So let's review this together. The doctor diagnoses the patient. So this is the active form of the verb to diagnose. The doctor diagnoses the patients. The doctor shares his diagnosis or her diagnosis. So in this case, diagnosis is a noun and it belongs to the doctor. The patients are diagnosed with an illness by the doctor. And this is the passive form. So the verb is to be. That's what you need to conjugate. And in this case, diagnose is the verb that you conjugate. Let's continue. Instead of relying on painful spinal taps and expensive brain scans, these blood tests, so remember it was the blood tests here in this unique study, these blood tests are heralded as a new, less invasive and time-consuming way to determine risk and aid in an earlier diagnosis of Alzheimer's. So notice here, diagnosis and diagnosis. So diagnosis is the noun form, like we saw here, diagnosis. Diagnosis of an illness, diagnosis of Alzheimer's. Now, if something is heralded as something else, it means that it's publicly praised as something. So for sentence structure, you would have something that's being publicly praised. Let's use ChatGPT. In this article, it was these blood tests. So that's why we have are, because your verb to be needs to, of course, match the subject. So in our article, it's plural. In my example, it's singular. ChatGPT is heralded. So we always use this in the third form of the verb, heralded as. You need that preposition as, but now we need a noun. So here I have a tool for learning languages, but I want to make it sound more impressive. So I added this adjective, a groundbreaking tool for learning languages. So publicly praised. Let's continue. The preliminary data. So the preliminary data, it's the data that's first available. So it's not all data, it's just the first available, first analyzed, the first data. The preliminary data presented Monday at the American Academy of Neurology annual meeting in San Diego analyzed biomarkers on 54 participants in an ongoing preventative neurology study. So ongoing means that it doesn't have a definitive end date. It's ongoing. Now, I think this is the second time we saw the word biomarker here just in the plural, and we didn't discuss it before. So a biomarker, my understanding, my non-medical background understanding is a biomarker is something in our body, so our blood, our protein, something in our body that you can look at to identify certain things, such as the presence or absence of disease or other markers, which would represent categories for your health or wellness. So that's my very basic non-technical understanding of it. If you have a medical background and you want to share a more advanced understanding, feel free. Alzheimer's blood tests are the key to widespread prevention of dementia, experts say. So the key, the most important. So are critical, are crucial, are the most important to widespread prevention. Let's keep going. If people can be diagnosed, so the people are receiving, right? So that's why it's in the passive. If people can be diagnosed in their doctor's office. So said another way, it'd be if the doctor can diagnose people in their office, the office now belonging to the doctor, in their office. So if people can be diagnosed in their doctor's office, they can more immediately move into preventative care and implement lifestyle changes designed to slow the progression of their disease. So what I did here is an excellent exercise that you can do to really push yourself, to force you to use different forms, different grammatical structures of one word. So take one word and see how you can change it. That really shows your level of fluency and how well you truly understand the language. So this is a great exercise. So everything I highlighted, you can change it to the active form and say, if doctors, this apostrophe is in the wrong place because right now this is one doctor. Now, if that's true, then I need an article because a singular noun like doctor would require an article. But this wouldn't make sense because what belongs to the doctor? So there's no reason for the possessive to be here. Okay. So we just want if doctor. So when you have the plural noun, you don't need an article. My mind got confused because it saw doctors here. So that's why I wrote it. If doctors can diagnose, so this is your verb to diagnose, we have our modal, and then remember modal plus base verb. Now you can say patients or you can say people. Notice people does not have an S because people is the plural form of person. One person, two people. Patients just represents people who see that doctor, and then people are just more random. If doctors can diagnose patients, people in their office, and then everything else is the same. They can more immediately move into preventative care. Now here, if you implement, which simply means you apply lifestyle changes in your life. If you implement lifestyle changes, you might say if you revamp your lifestyle and revamp their lifestyle. So that's another great way to see how advanced your abilities are, because if you can take a word that you learned in this article and you can replace it and know what else you need to do to replace it, because I can't just say revamp lifestyle changes. That's not correct. It would be and revamp their lifestyle. So now let's read that. They can more immediately move into preventative care and revamp their lifestyle to slow the progression of their disease. So this word would have to be replaced as well. It doesn't belong if I wanted to use revamp their lifestyle. Now my next word would be too slow, because this provides the reason why. Why are they revamping their lifestyle? They're doing it in order to slow, but this just represents in order to. And revamp their lifestyle to slow the progression of their disease. So if you can do the two things that I just did in this paragraph, then wow, you have a very advanced understanding of the words you learn and overall English grammar and sentence structure. So try it with an easy example. And that's the end of the article. So what I'll do now is I'll read the article from start to finish and you can focus on my pronunciation. Amazing reduction in Alzheimer's risk verified by blood markers, study says. When Penny Ashford's father was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's disease at age 62, she knew the devastating brain disorder might one day steal her memory. In her late 50s, her free-floating anxiety turned into outright panic when she began struggling to find words. I couldn't tell a story, I couldn't get my words out, said Ashford, now 61. I remember sitting at a dinner party one time and I couldn't finish my thoughts. It was the most unbelievable moment. I came home and sobbed and told my husband, something is wrong with me. I can't talk. She said, I was petrified. Today, after a complete revamp of her lifestyle and overall health, Ashford's struggles with retrieving words have eased, while measures of amyloid and tau proteins and neuroinflammation, all hallmark signs of Alzheimer's, have fallen. Ashford knows about these improvements because she's part of a unique study tracking her progress via key blood biomarkers now being used to help diagnose early dementia. Instead of relying on painful spinal taps and expensive brain scans, these blood tests are heralded as a new, less invasive and time-consuming way to determine risk and aid in an earlier diagnosis of Alzheimer's. The preliminary data presented Monday at the American Academy of Neurology annual meeting in San Diego analyzed biomarkers on 54 participants in an ongoing preventative neurology study. Alzheimer's blood tests are the key to widespread prevention of dementia, experts say. If people can be diagnosed in their doctor's office, they can more immediately move into preventative care and implement lifestyle changes designed to slow the progression of their disease.
Amazing job with this lesson. Now, do you want me to keep making these lessons for you? If you do, put let's go, put let's go in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.